as always, thanks for joining us for episode number 108. Now, I was going to hold off on reviewing this whiskey because technically, in the scheme of things, I should be reviewing a Scotch tonight. But, the weather's turned a little bit for the cooler. Fall is in the air. Fall has arrived. The leaves are turning colors. It's a beautiful time to be alive. So I thought I would go ahead and get an early jump on those cold winter nights that are ahead and do a pretty limited release from High West, and that's a Midwinter's Night Dram. So this, surprisingly enough, I got for a pretty good deal where I was working over the summer in New York, believe it or not. So I got this for around $120, which is pretty decent because, as we know, bottles like this collectors will hoard, and then you will see them being sold on auction sites or other places. Even some independent stores will be selling them for several $100s, and it's just outrageous. So I was pretty lucky to get my hands on this. I'm a huge fan of High West. You can see in my past videos that I've done a ton of High West whiskey reviews, so go ahead and check those out. So what we've got here is a blend of straight rye whiskeys aged in French oak port barrels, which is pretty interesting. So if you've had the High West Rendezvous rye, you have gotten sort of the precursor to this whiskey. They take that Rendezvous rye and they finish it in these French oak port barrels, which is a really unique combination. So some things on the bottle, as we always like to tell you about. It says right on the bottle, and this is important, that it's bottled by High West Distillery, Park City, Utah. It's not saying that it's distilled or produced by, to use shady marketing terms, but that is just bottled by them at High West. So the exact composition of the blended rye whiskeys that are in this, or blended straight rye whiskeys that are in this, are top secret and classified. But we do know that they do have a blend of their own whiskey distilled in this, as well as some whiskey from MGP and from Barton Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. So that much we do know, which is great. But I love, just to reiterate, that it's bottled by High West Distillery. Full transparency. They're not trying to pull a fast one over people because they know that us as consumers are relatively educated, or most folks are. So that's nice to see. Limited engagement. The design in this is really cool. It sticks with the traditional, obviously, High West bottle itself, but just sort of the aesthetic on here is harkening back to Shakespeare's A Midsummer's Night Dream, which, if you say those two interchangeably really fast, you can run into some trouble. So this is Act 5, Scene 5. Just sort of gives you a sense of the progression as they've released these limited editions. And so this is bottled at 49.3% alcohol by volume. Pretty interesting. And then on the back you see not chill filtered and no coloring or flavoring added, which is also great to know, because the rules for whiskeys in this country, created in this country and then sold in this country, are different than whiskeys that are produced in this country and then sold or exported to other markets. So there are some rules that I'm not entirely fully educated on, but I know that there is a little bit of allowance for caramel colorant or a certain percentage of flavoring that is allowed when it's exported, but that's not allowed in our own country. Otherwise, it falls into a different category of a flavored whiskey or something like that. You just look at like Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey, things that are like a liqueur or something like that. They're not trying to advertise that they are, just straight up whiskey, right? They've got flavoring in it, obviously. So there's some legal terminology there. But just nice to know that no coloring, no chill filtering, which is fantastic. So let's go in for, the first, let's look at the color, because it's got a really great burnt amber, got a beautiful fall cacophony of color in there, just rich. There's even a hint of ruby red in there. It's got similar to what you'd see if you had a nice glass of redbreast in front of you, and just a little tinge of ruby red in there, which is nice. So for the nose, now I gave this a nose earlier and sort of learned, from the last couple of reviews, to let things open up and breathe, sort of taking a note about that when you get a new bottle opened up. But just one thing right off the bat, it's like they took everything apple, cinnamon, vanilla themed that we love about fall and literally just distilled it down into this bottle. It really comes off strong apple pie note. Just this beautiful, luscious apple, cinnamony, syrupy, caramel, vanilla bounty of an aroma on it, which is just absolutely fantastic. If you get a little bit of time and start to nose it a little bit more deeply, get a little bit more descriptive about what's going on in there, you do get a hint of spice on the end, which is kind of nice. It's a really a fresh but almost biting, like wintergreen, mint, that sort of thing, it's a nice sort of fresh, outdoorsy, winterish note. Like if you're walking through a field of pine trees, just get that real beautiful smell that's sort of like prickly in a sense. So that's beautiful to have. Let's go in for the taste. Again, it's like you just took, one of Grandma's apple pies and just boiled that right down. And speaking of Grandma, the type of apples we're talking about in the sense of the flavor profile that's going on, it's sort of like Granny Smith apples. It's got a really nice, fresh, fragrant, but tart note to the apple. It's not sort of a more not sedated is not the right word, but sort of overripe. Sometimes you get apples that are a little bit soft. So that, not that kind of thing, but we're talking about a really nice, fresh, ripe, just tart Granny Smith apple in there, which gives it a nice freshness to it and just a nice bite, which I think is important. If you're going to have a glass on a cold winter's night, you need something to sort of, perk you up, cheer you up, warm you up. If you're sitting by a fire, just get you nice and alert. Just a really great, wholesome taste, which is just, it's absolutely beautiful. You feel like you've got some real weight, some substance to the whiskey, which is just fantastic to have. So another thing that's coming through is some vanilla notes, even some plum notes. I know that one of the notes that they describe on the bottle, which I traditionally don't look to, is like a Christmas pudding or something like that. I actually don't know what that is because I haven't had something like that, so I can't really attribute it to it. But you do get sort of a note of plum and a hint on the back of the palate of that sort of mint and wintergreen and pine tree type of note that I was picking up on the nose. But just overall, a really beautiful bundle of flavoring. It's one that really can last a long time. and being at, a little bit higher than the 49% ABV, is you get a lot of time in the glass. It's not something that fades away quick. It's something that you can take slow sips with, let it gradually ease you into the evening, which is nice. Again, as in previous reviews, you'll notice that I don't have water, and I usually just make a conscious choice at that point when I taste it for the first time, first couple times rather, that I either do or don't want to use water for the review, because I don't think that adding much water changes an overtly lot. Or on the flip side, I just really prefer to have it just straight without, putting any water in it, even if it may help out a little bit to taste, depending on, what your own palate is like. So, feel free to go ahead and see what that's like, and, definitely comment if you see something positive that evolves, if you lose sort of the flavors and that sort of thing overly quickly, just let me know. I'll take one last pass here. A lot of times you see some prices out there for whiskeys, and it's pretty outrageous once you taste it, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's decent, but I've had better for a lower price point. This is one that really lives up to the price point, and certainly at $120, $125, I have no problem paying that for this bottle. It doesn't mean I'm going to fly through the bottle like, Tostitos, but it's definitely something that you kind of want to back up if you can afford it. I don't currently, and there was only one bottle available when I went to pick this up. But if you're able to get multiple bottles of this, I would suggest you do so, because, the second we forget about it, and, just the moment that we're like, oh yeah, that High West, limited edition bottling, oh crap, I'm out of it. When you go to get more, it may be gone by then. They may be on to something else. So it's always good to have another bottle for that instance. I'm not one of those collectors that has whiskeys that just sit there. Actually all the bottles that I have here currently, which is not my full stock, because as I moved to the other side of the country, had to leave some behind, some that I wasn't so taken with. Some are still good. I just didn't have enough room for everything. But everything that I own currently has been opened, even if it's just, a glass or two. I like whiskey because the taste and the experience that I get with it, not because I'm buying something to flip as an investment later on. I know people do that. I know there's a large market for it. I'm not into that, and I don't really suggest people do that, because I think it just takes away from people like us, typically who are watching this and want to enjoy it. If you're watching this and trying to look for different notes and sort of flavors that you may get out of it, or how, personally I think that something is either good or bad, compared to what you may think, it's helpful, because you're probably going to buy it to taste it, not buy it to go put it on a shelf. So that's just my sort of little rant about that. But anyway, that wraps it up for this week. As always, if you're going to drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.